Hi, we're Josh
and Ariel Wamsley,
owners of Green Valley Tree LLC, based in North Windham.
We're proud to sponsor Connecticut East this week and to serve the communities of Windham and New London counties with our tree removal and plant health care services.
Visit our website at greenvalleytreeworks.com for a full list of our services, or give us a call on 860-234-4041. We look forward to hearing from you.
It's back to school for Connecticut students, but what will that look like? Marketing Eastern Connecticut with a new $180,000 matching fund, what you need to know. Plus a look at some other stories from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. The debate over the return to school for Connecticut students and teachers continues, and like so many things during these uncertain COVID-19 times, how exactly to do that is up for debate and constant revision. It's a challenge for education boards and school districts, and recently I caught up with Dan Sullivan, Superintendent of the Putnam School District, to find out what's happening in his neck of the woods. Dan, ever so many thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So school opens very soon for many students across Connecticut. How much of a challenge is it going to be?
I think it's going to be a significant challenge for everybody, not just the logistical aspect, although the logistical aspect of returning to school is challenging because there's so much to do, and because the guidance from the state is either often quote unquote forthcoming or changes. And I think, to be fair, that's because the research and the information that we all have on the virus is also, constantly changing, but it's frustrating. But I also think people's personal feelings about the virus play a significant impact on the challenge. You have people who are quite afraid of contracting the virus. You have people who a more cavalier attitude about it and are, more willing to go with the flow and, maybe figure nothing's going to happen to them. So all of that also plays into how people feel about coming back to work and school.
It is a difficult time, obviously, for everybody, but in particular, as you say, with regards to the reopening of schools across the state, what have parents been saying to you?
Again, it's pretty similar to my last answer. I have some parents who really are uncomfortable sending their kids back to school because they don't want their kids wearing a mask for, a significant part of the day and don't believe that masks should be a part of the return to school. And then I have other parents who are really concerned about, are we doing enough to make school safe, and can their kids really be safe at school? So again, people's feelings are kind of all over the place.
Now, the final plan for Putnam School District is, I believe, a bit of a hybrid plan. Could you just explain that to us?
Sure. So we broke students up by alphabet based upon the primary guardian's last name. And A to K is blue days. L to Z is white days. Our blue days are Mondays and Wednesdays. Our white days are Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are alternating Fridays. That allows us to reduce density in our classroom. It allows us to have direct instruction and interaction every other day, and then assignments and practice on the off days. So hopefully we can create a level of continuity through this plan and really focus on skill development, the essential concepts, and bridge whatever gaps may have formed last spring, and really focus on quality over quantity this year so that students do not fall behind.
One of the things I want to put to you, and it's been raised by many towns and cities across Connecticut, is the digital divide, the ability to have access to internet or to devices, that can access the internet, etc. How much of a problem has it been, in the Putnam School District?
So last spring, I would say that it was a very significant challenge. And what we did last spring was we broke up Chrome carts and pulled laptops from any and every place that we could and offered loaner devices to families in need. This year, because of the generosity of the Dalio grant and some other state support coupled with the use of local funds, we will be 1-to-1 to start the year in grades 3 through 12. And in addition, we have more devices on order from the state to cover at least grades 1 and 2 and maybe some of kindergarten. That coupled with devices that we already have on hand that are gently used, only used maybe in the last year or two, we should be able to put a device in every student's hand if we're on a hybrid or on a full virtual learning. In addition, the state surveyed us last spring, and we surveyed families again this summer, and we should have some support from the state for either internet vouchers with the local cable company or some hotspots from local cell phone providers to help families who were on that survey list in need of internet access. So we're not providing internet access to everyone. They did not indicate a need for internet access. We won't be able to go out and provide additional hotspots, but we should be able to help many of our families in need and help bridge that gap.
Distance learning, of course, has been sort of the norm up until now. And as we've said, it'll be part of a hybrid sort of situation for many school districts. How successful do you feel distance learning has been for the Putnam School District? Because there has been criticisms about the whole distance learning thing, across the country about, students not, logging in, etc. So how well do you think it worked out for the Putnam School District?
We had pretty good participation at the elementary level and probably up through grade 7. And then participation started to drop off more with 8th graders, and high school participation was mixed. I think one of the challenges last year is when we went out in March, there was a stated purpose of we're doing this for a couple of weeks because the state told us we would be shutting down for a couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks looked like a month, and then a month turned into 2 months, which then obviously turned into the rest of the year. The plan we built was not really built to last for 3 or 4 months. And I also don't think we preset students and families or teachers to think that we were doing a long-term distance learning plan. I don't think it was ever set up to be ideal. Now, recognizing that can be part of our future, we've put a lot of time and effort into what distance learning would look like. We have professional development built around it. We had some professional development last spring, but we have a lot more throughout the summer and in the next couple of weeks. We've obviously addressed the device issue and the internet gap. Then the other thing, we listened to families, and they really made it clear that the things that kids miss from school besides the social interaction is the structure and that direct instruction from the teacher. So if we're on full virtual this year, we're going to run a schedule with a set login time and set class times and try as best we can to replicate the school experience. So I believe what we do this year, virtual learning will be much better than what we did last year.
And I understand that distance learning will also look different for the teachers as well. So you can just explain to us, how that's going to be different.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the structure. Our teachers bent over backwards last year, and they were making themselves accessible whenever they could, however they could. That's not fair to them because many of them have families of their own. Again, trying to replicate something closer to what school resembles means that the teachers will have a mix of technology-based lessons using platforms like Screencastify, and then just regular Zoom video or regular video, so to speak, giving some direct instruction, having some breakout groups one-on-one or small groups working with kids and giving them extra support and feedback. I think more than anything else, just as best we can, replicating the traditional school experience.
Now, of course, all of this comes at a cost, not only to the Putnam School District, but to many school districts. How does that impact your budget? And, has the state said that they can find more money if you need it?
The last question is an interesting one because we should have received some information from the state about what support we are getting for for the hybrid opening. And perhaps that will come out later today, but we were supposed to receive details about additional funding. But we do have CARES Act money, which was about $255,000. As I said, we received some donations from the state for the laptops and the internet accessibility. When we put a price tag on all of the things that we've done, it's not so much for the hybrid or for the virtual, it's for implement all three plans. So, we're looking at expenses of about $700,000. And so I'm hoping that we're looking at additional state funding, because otherwise we're going to have to make some other hard choices this year to balance the books. But to be ready to open with kids present in school, between PPE and safeguarding measures and technology platforms in the event of any sort of distance learning, there's a lot of expenses to be incurred.
There's been a lot of commentary, specifically from parents saying that they feel that their children, have missed out because of, what has happened from, COVID-19 closing down schools. How much of an impact do you think it ultimately will have on, these students and their, their education stroke learning?
Oh boy. I think the challenge in answering that question lies in part in how long does all this go on? Because there's the academic component of this, and then there's that social emotional piece, and they're both important. I anticipate that there'll be some academic slide from not being in school 5 days a week. And I would say the longer we're out, the more significant that gap will be. Like I said, we're going to try to do more skill-based and really focused on the essentials to have quality over quantity. But there's some things that just take time and interaction. And then the social emotional piece is kids learn so much about themselves and how they get along with others by being in school, interacting with peers, learning to settle disagreements, and learning body language and physical cues. And I think the longer that we're not in person, or we're not in person with everybody, there's going to be a deficit to that too. So difficult to quantify, I think noticeable and significant.
Dan Sullivan, Superintendent of the Putnam School District, thanks ever so much. And obviously we wish you and all of the educators across the state well as schools begin to reopen.
Thank you very much.
Marketing your business for success can be challenging and costly at the best of times. But when you're faced with a pandemic that has shut down much of the state for months on end, reopening and getting those customers back, both old and new, can be a challenge. Thankfully, Eastern Connecticut has received a fund of money to help local businesses, as I found out recently. So joining me on the podcast is Chris Regan, Chairman of the Eastern Regional Tourism District's Marketing Committee. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Brian, for having me on.
Now, some very good news. $180,000 is up for grabs. Tell us about it.
It's a regional partnership program. We have 41 towns in our district, and we're trying to encourage people to work together collaboratively to get some private sector funds that we can match and give them a little boost in what they can spend. So if you raise $5,000, the first $5,000 is two to one. So if you raise 5, you get 10,000 additional. And then the next 15,000 is $1 for dollar. So the most you can get matched is 25,000. So it's I think it's going to help the region stay strong and try to get the money out to all the corners of the district.
You are the Eastern Regional Tourism District. Why is it necessary to have regionalized tourism districts when we've got sort of like Tourism Connecticut?
It's because you have a total different marketing Mystic region and the Eastern region has always been the leader in tourism in the state of Connecticut. It's going back to the early 70s. It's always been that way. We are the driving force of their state's revenue through the hotel tax, which is generated majority through the Eastern District. It's a testament to our region of how we've marketed ourselves in the past, and hopefully in the future that we improve on top of that.
So I was reading through the press release that came out about this story, and one of the points on this is that programs should support the existing tourism brand identity of Mystic Country. Why specifically does it have to do that?
Well, we have to have a coordinated campaign through the state. So they're using the Mystic Country brand for the Eastern District. So we want to help promote that brand awareness because then it drives people to the ctvisit.com of the state website. So we're a cohesive marketing region and as a state.
There's no disputing, obviously, that Mystic and the Mystic region is a big pull for visitors to this part of Connecticut. But say, you're an organization, an attraction up in the far northeastern part of Connecticut. How's the Mystic thing really going to help you?
Well, it's driving people here. And so if you can get the tourists to our area, and then it's to try to get them to go out and explore the 41 towns, like the Airline Trail up in the northeast corner, which is 57 miles of biking trails. I've lived here my entire life. I never even knew about it. And once I got on this board, I came fully aware what our region has. And, our goal is to get people to come here, not just for 1 or 2 days, but give them enough reasons to stay for 4 or 5 days. And that benefits everybody, especially for state revenue, for the restaurants, the hotels, for the attractions. It's a boost for everybody in our region.
And tell us, what sorts of companies, organizations, can apply or should be applying maybe for this particular funding?
Well, it's not geared toward just one specific business. It's to try to do a collaboration of an area. As an example, you could get New London. You could get all the stakeholders to try to pool some resources to advertise the attractions, the restaurants as a whole of what they have to offer. Same thing for Norwich, same thing for Mystic. Like last year, we did a See Mystic campaign where we raised $117,000 for a campaign. We didn't get any state money. It was all private money. We took out billboard ads, and the impressions that we had were 34 million impressions in 4 months. It's tough to quantify it of how the performance was, but most of the attractions and the restaurants were having good years leading up to COVID. Some even had record years going up to COVID. But I think moving forward, I think there's going to be more of a digital campaign aspect, so you can have the ability to measure the effectiveness of your advertising.
$180,000 is a lot of money in anyone's pocket. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about 41 towns, would you want more?
Oh, absolutely. I think this is only a start. And I think for the state should step up and make a big commitment to the tourism districts and towards tourism, because tourism is one of the top employers in the state of Connecticut and revenue generating. So if you put $1 into tourism, you get $3 in return in that same year. So it's a win-win. It's a great investment, and it's a great investment for revenue for the state, because you're going to get that return realized in that same year. But it also creates a lot of jobs in the state of Connecticut.
Before we started this interview, we were talking about a situation earlier in the year that was widely reported about the Eastern Regional Tourism District. There was, a little bit of conversation, some heated debate about how it was or wasn't working. What is the situation now? Give us an update on that, Chris.
I think the makeup of the board is a great board. I'm very satisfied with the leadership of Jim Bolano. He's the chairman. He's been fantastic, and he's from Willimantic, Wyndham area, and so he has representation of the northern part of our district, which is great. And I think there's a lot of transparency, and I think there's a lot of people that mean well to make sure that it's equitable across the board to get people to travel in our 41 towns. And I'm a firm believer in it. And I believe that if everybody's prospering, that means we're all being successful, and it makes us even stronger.
Obviously, COVID-19 has attacked every industry. Everyone is affected. Do you think, in a way, that there is a silver lining, actually, with COVID-19, that it will actually bring people together and get them to understand that they do need to work together if they're to survive?
Yeah, I mean, I think people get that now. I mean, and you know what? The one thing that really people are looking at differently, what they want to go do for leisure, and I think it's, you know, the open air type of atmosphere. I mean, we see it at Old Mystic Village with people just, even during COVID when we were in shutdown, people would come by and just walk around the village because it was a calming sense of place for them. And that was going on through the entire time. And now, even more so, once the stores opened up, we've seen a big influx because people aren't flying. They're looking for day trips or just an overnight trip, which benefits our region because we have the biggest population within a 2-hour drive from us, between Boston and New York.
So for any businesses that are listening to this who are interested, obviously, in applying for some of this grant money, is there a deadline, and how do they do it?
I would get a marketing campaign. I would submit the application. We're trying to get this money out to the district as quick as possible. It's better not to be in our bank. It'd be better to be implemented into a advertising program. And that's what it's meant for. It's not meant to be sitting in the bank. It's be implemented to attract new businesses and help people survive through COVID and get into the following year and be successful. And that's one of the reasons why we made the commitment to have this partnership program. So we're the test. The Eastern Marketing District is going to be the first partnership program. And then the Central and the Western are going to watch how we do it and probably copy exactly what we're doing.
Who do they need to contact to apply for this? Because I understand there is an organization that is coordinating this.
Yeah, it's Eastern Chamber and the Mystic Chamber. You're going to want to get a hold of Courtney Assad. They just go on their website and you'll be able to find all the information they need to get the application. I mean, if they want to give me a call anytime, I'd be happy to talk to anybody in our district to try to help them out and figure out how to implement this, or even get the stakeholders to come to the table to want to partner up and do campaigns to help each other.
Well, Chris Regan of the Eastern Regional Tourism District, ever so many thanks for talking to us. Obviously, we wish you and obviously the companies and organizations here at Eastern Connecticut success. And obviously, this is a bright bit of news with all the COVID-19 stuff that's going around. So thanks ever so much for sharing all of the information with us.
Absolutely, Brian. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And if you want to apply for funds, then contact the Chamber of Commerce Eastern Connecticut via their website at chamberect.com and ask for Courtney Assad.
Green Valley Tree LLC is proud to sponsor Connecticut East This Week. Contact Green Valley Tree LLC for all your tree removal and plant health care needs and more. Find us at greenvalleytreeworks.com or call 860-234-4041.
Time now for a look at some of the other stories making the headlines in the region recently. The Connecticut Port Authority has announced their new executive director as John Henshaw. CPA Chair David Kouros made the announcement public at a regular virtual board of directors meeting recently.
Mr. Henshaw was the head of the Maine Port Authority for a decade and has recent experience on the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the Port of Portland. He also has private sector experience.
Henshaw replaces Evan Matthews, the CPA's previous executive director, who was placed on administrative leave back in July 2019 for public comments he made about Noank resident and authority critic Kevin Blacker. Evans later resigned from his role amid investigations into the authority over policy and financial irregularities and an offshore wind deal involving State Pier in New London, which will cost the state $157 million. Henshaw will officially take the reins of the CPA on September 9th. In CT News Junkie, an independent review of Connecticut's response to COVID-19 at nursing homes and assisted living facilities, where more than 3,200 people have died, found that the facilities lacked personal protective equipment and the state was slow to monitor the infection control. Connecticut has the fourth highest per capita coronavirus death rate for nursing homes, according to data from the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. However, the death toll has slowed to a trickle in recent weeks, following months of testing of staff and nearly 2,000 on-site inspections of facilities. Part of that final report will examine why the state did not cite any nursing homes for infection control-related deficiencies between March 4th and June 28th. Before the outbreak, 68% of Connecticut nursing homes have been cited for an infection control deficiency at least once in the previous 3 years of inspections. The state paid $450,000 for the study. The second part of the report is due by September 30th. In the Norwich Bulletin, Jason Vincent, Senior Vice President of the Norwich Community Development Corporation, said that many businesses are thriving through economic conditions created by COVID-19, but many have also suffered, forcing them to close down. Last week, Apollo Cycles in Norwich announced it was closing its doors. The store couldn't acquire bikes and parts due to worldwide shortages, making business difficult. Vincent said it won't be the last business that closes down due to the pandemic. In the Middletown Press this week, several University of Connecticut students have been removed from campus housing as an investigation has been launched into a dorm party that could have violated COVID-19 measures, according to school officials. School staff identified students involved in an unapproved gathering in a residence hall room who were not wearing masks. The students were issued interim actions and removed from housing as the investigation continues. In the Connecticut Examiner, Eversource has been pushed into the spotlight after a sharp rate hike on July 1st drew outrage from customers, and Tropical Storm Isaias left hundreds of thousands without power soon after, some for over a week. Eversource's well-paid executives have drawn scrutiny from customers and politicians in recent weeks, with Middletown Mayor Ben Florsheim noting that the $39.37 million compensation for the utility's top 5 executives amounted to more than the town's combined budget for police, fire, public works, and emergency management. In the Chronicle, over the last 24 years, one Willimantic police officer rose through the ranks to become the department's newest chief. Lieutenant Paul Hussey will be the Willimantic Police Department's new leader. Hussey was approved by the Windham Town Council unanimously during a recent meeting. According to a memo written by Human Resources Director Paul Hongo, after the position was left vacant in July, the town began an internal search for a new chief. Hussey's was the one application that was received. And remembering Floyd Welch, the last Connecticut Pearl Harbor survivor, who saved the lives of his fellow sailors from the USS Oklahoma when Pearl Harbor came under attack from Japanese forces in 1941. U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal remembered Welch.
One of the greatest generation, a model of public service, and an example for all of us to follow as he put his own life at risk, went into harm's way to help fellow Americans.
Welch was 99 years old and passed away peacefully at his home in East Lyme recently, according to his family. We thank Floyd Welch and all servicemen and women past and present for their service to the country. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East, where you can also listen to the show again on demand. And please like, follow and share on your social media platforms too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.